Hello and welcome to my channel. I have another question today, and the question is, what is the Gospel of Jesus' wife? The Gospel of Jesus' wife is the name of a papyrus fragment written in Coptic, a form of ancient Egyptian. It gained public attention in 2012 when Karen King, a researcher at Harvard Divinity School, announced its discovery. The text allegedly quotes Jesus Christ referring to his wife. This led to media coverage and discussions about the idea that Jesus may have been married. However, after much scrutiny of its language, content, and physical features, most scholars, both Christian and non-Christian, have concluded that the artifact is a modern forgery. The papyrus fragment is rectangular with a golden brown background and frayed edges. It measures 3.15 inches wide by 1.57 inches long. There are 33 Coptic words written in black ink on the fragment, none of which form a complete sentence. The phrases include: the disciples said to Jesus, "Mary is worthy of it, and she will be able to be my disciple." The most debated statement is Jesus said to them, "my wife." This incomplete quote has no relevant context before or after it. One reason most scholars consider the Gospel of Jesus' wife fragment to be a forgery is its grammar and syntax. The phrases contain errors that would be unusual for an early scribe to make. However, they are consistent with someone centuries later attempting to imitate an ancient language with which they were unfamiliar. Also, the grammar and syntax mirror writing patterns unknown during the early church era. Another reason most scholars of the fragment are skeptical is its content. First, the phrases of the fragment are unoriginal, each one derived from old sources, such as the Gospel of Thomas that espoused a Gnostic worldview. However, the idea of Jesus having a wife contradicts the teachings of the New Testament and the early church. Neither Scripture nor the church's earliest non-canonical writings reference Jesus being married. Yet another reason most researchers argue that the Gospel of Jesus' wife fragment is a forgery relates to its physical features. Although most scholars believe the fragment dates to the 7th to 9th centuries AD, ink analysis suggests that its creators made it to appear much older, copying the style and material of earlier periods. The difference between its actual age and the intended appearance raises suspicion about its authenticity. The New Testament does not mention Jesus being married. Moreover, certain passages imply that he was single. For instance, his relationships with women like Mary Magdalene give no indication of romance or marriage. Paul's support of singleness further implies Jesus' unmarried status. Moreover, Paul says apostles are permitted to marry and uses Peter as an example. But if Jesus had a wife, then he would have been a much better example. Furthermore, when Jesus died, he entrusted his mother, Mary, to John the Apostle. This arrangement would have been unusual if Jesus had a wife to care for Mary. In conclusion, the evidence suggests that the creators of the Gospel of Jesus' wife's fragment intended to mislead people. Through such deception, they aimed to influence historical and theological views about Jesus. The fabricators may have sought to portray him as less than divine, using marriage to emphasize his human desires. They may have also opposed rules about the celibacy of church leaders, believing that a portrayal of a married Jesus would support their cause. Ultimately, New Testament and early church writings refused the fragment's teachings. Thank you for listening to this question, and I'll see you next time.